So yep, I've been with I'm working out here in Lifeline Darling Downs, and we've been taking placements sort of for the last 6 years of students from all over different universities, social workers, psychologists, human service placements. We've done a couple of little TAFE placements as well, and it's not just sort of just the academic placement. It's sort of a bit of an experience that they get here, because they really do get immersed within the community. And I have a real passion to advocate and grow the workforce in remote areas, and that's why I'm here today, just to tell you a little bit about how we're doing that out here in Southwest Queensland. But before I do more, I just want to introduce you to Harry and Chantelle, and they can sort of tell a little bit about their story, just who you are.
Yeah, thanks, Alison. I'm Harry. I'm a student social worker studying through the University of Queensland and leading my second placement out here. So far, I'm week 10 at the moment, and it's been quite an experience and an enjoyable one. Certainly quite different compared to the previous placement I was in, working within an urban setting. So it has been nice to have a bit of a change of pace and really get to feel part of the teams here and around the place, and get out and about to the different stations and towns around this far out. So overall, been a blast so far, and I'm sure as we go further into this session, you'll hear more about it. So
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Chantelle. I am a psychologist working at Lifeline in the domestic family violence and sexual violence team. I came out to Charleville as a student placement, and they just haven't been able to get rid of me. So this is going on to my 4th year out here. And yeah, I'll talk more about that as we go along.
Thanks, guys. So yeah, so that's a little bit about sort of where we are at. Sort of the last 6 years since I've been with Lifeline, it's been a bit of a passion of mine to grow the workforce. We started with just a couple of little programs, and there was only 4 staff at the beginning, and now we've actually got 12 programs and 20 staff in our Charleville Cunnamulla office. So, and a lot of that has been through student placements and the success of really just sort of getting behind the students out here, showing them what remote areas are all about, giving them a really good practice framework to work from, and the support around that, and then what that looks like then in the workforce as well moving forward. So that's been a really big part of, I think, success of growing the workforce here in Charleville and Cunnamulla. Probably about 50% of the students that have come through have either stayed here or even just stayed in the remote area of Charleville in other organisations as well. So yeah, it's been really nice. And lovely to meet you all. And it looks like we've all got the same passion and reason why we're all here. So yeah, how we come about with this placement was like, as we all said, we want to grow the workforce. The model that we adapted here was making sure that we really put a really strong network around the students. So I sort of work with the universities in making sure that they've got a clinical and a placement supervisor, plus also myself as the task supervisor, and then they've got their placement coordinator. So it's like a triangle support network with our student in the middle, which has been really beneficial for, I think, every student that I've had on placement. With the task manager or supervisor plus the placement supervisor, we collaborate quite closely. Also come together to do the mid-evaluations and the final evaluations. So it's a really good broad network and information for the student. Lots of positive and critical feedback for the student to keep developing, and having those both sides connecting. It just seems to work. So it's that real open communication that we've had with the universities that has been able to help us grow here in Southwest Queensland. And I think in any regional area, that's probably the key to be able to keep placements, I think, in our areas. But it's also, like you said, getting out onto the lakes, having access to be able to go out and see some of the beautiful sites that are in remote areas. That's sort of another piece of work that we do, is making sure they're linked with the community, not just in on placement, but also they're leaving homes sort of in Brisbane. One's come from down the Coffs Harbour in New South Wales and coming to Queensland on placement. So they're leaving a big chunk of themselves behind. So trying to make them feel comfortable in community, linking them in within us with sports, any activities. But I know Harry and Chantelle will be able to talk a lot more about how they went with that as a student. So yeah, there's lots of travel opportunities out here for student placements. We do the whole Southwest Queensland, so a lot of outreach, which is a 2-hour drive to any town closest to us. So they really get to be immersed in the Outback, which I know they probably do that same thing up near Mount Isa too, being able to get immersed in some of the other communities around Mount Isa. Also there we've got, we always connect the students with some sort of research or community activity where they can have a little bit of an input, not so much be the lead, but be one of the leads in getting an event or a group session based in the community, where they get out and have a chat with a lot of stakeholders also. So again, broadening those networks for the students out in our areas. And yeah, again, I'll let Chantelle and Harry, they've got beautiful stories to tell you, which are better than mine. So yeah, any questions around any of that there? Anything else you'd like me to add in that sector there, John?
Yeah, also, I'm not sure if this is coming up later in your presentation, but could you talk to a little bit, I guess, what you've learned, Alison, around, I guess, that attracting of students initially and that kind of groundwork you've done with universities, maybe? I think just picking up on what some of the participants might be here for. So I just thought that might be an interesting thing to flesh out a bit.
So again, look, communication is the key. It's having those open communications with universities. Got a couple of key workers, but also we're really lucky out here. We have SQRH, which is Southwest Queensland Rural Health, and they're a really big player in connecting organisations with universities, and it's through those guys that we've got those connections. So keeping connected with SQRH. We've got a couple of key university people that are really passionate also for remote areas, which I just reach out to quite regularly and just go, hi, you got some time for a catch up. But it's also when students are on placement, it's not even about just keeping them out in the Outback either. It's actually showing them a different way to the city placements, where hopefully they'll go back with a really full cup to share wherever they go. So the placement's all about, just connecting the students with the work that we do, with community, and hopefully with that connection that they get in remote areas, can carry on right through their practice life, and give them a broader view. going to hand over to Harry here. These are some of the questions that we asked Harry just to talk about today. And then if you've got any other questions, please, ask Harry away. He's more than happy to answer.
That's it. Thanks, Alison. Yeah, I guess as I said at the beginning, my background is studying social work. And I guess my previous placement before this one was working at an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community health centre in Brisbane. So I guess kind of finishing that placement and then thinking about my second placement and what I was wanting to do, it was either tossing up between putting myself in, I guess, a medical environment, whether that's a hospital setting and that, or kind of exposing myself to something new, which is why I'm here. Yeah, I guess wanting to challenge myself was a big thing. I'm currently finishing up my studies, so this is the last stint I've got to do. So before that, I think a lot of it was kind of wanting to put myself in a different situation and really get that exposure. I guess as Alison touched on before, it's one thing to really be placed in an urban city environment and get that experience, but I think it's having that ability and I guess experience to push yourself and go out to a rural placement that creates that full circle picture, and really illustrates, I guess, how varied, I guess, for social work I know it can be working in this space. So I guess, yeah, a lot of that was wanting to challenging myself as a big driving factor and wanting to pursue an Outback placement. And I guess, yeah, with that, coming out this far west, it's a bit of a new terrain to me. I'd been, I guess, I'd travelled previously up north further around Mackay and Emerald. So being this far south and west is a bit of a new area. So I guess in having that previous experience of what the Outback's like further up north, I guess, yeah, coming into this space as a second placement student, having some prior experience working with First Nations people and putting myself in a different environment, there were, I guess, expectations around what I was going to face. I guess it's one thing to very much have a lot of, I guess, my comforts in Brisbane and then kind of pack all that up and leave. And
can you tell us like how a previous student helped you to get out there?
So yeah, a friend I was studying social work with, she's from this way, and she pretty much did a first placement out here. And from the sounds, I think she had a good time. I think though, for herself, I think she's a bit done with coming out this way after living here for so long. So I think, yeah, it was good for her to come out, and that kind of influenced me as well in being, oh, I reckon it'd be a good time. And yeah, from the sound of things, she had a blast, and came back with some really insightful pieces of knowledge and information that I found really attractive, particularly as an emerging social worker. Having that, I guess, hearing it from someone, but being able to experience that yourself is a big thing, I know for me. So that was what, I guess, set me out on that path. Yeah, I might just get to that one shortly, Lisa. Thanks. But yeah, I guess in that, having that previous knowledge about what I'd been told and some of the photos she'd shown me, and having that challenge of wanting to push myself, being a final placement. Yeah, I think with that and the expectations, I kind of hyped myself up probably a bit too much on about what was going to be out here. I think it's been really good once out here and 10 weeks in to really break those expectations down and really kind of get a face of reality, a taste of it. Being this far out, there are some challenges that I was aware of, particularly this far out, 8 hours, 7 to 8 hours west of Brisbane. Isolation's a big thing, and it can be challenging to access particular health services out this far. But I think it's been really good to kind of get that exposure to how good the community is out here and the communities around. I know coming in, it's a bit daunting as an outsider coming into this space, particularly in a small setting, and it's like, oh, how am I going to feel here? How are people going to see me? But I mean, it's been really good. I think a lot of those fears have been alleviated, I hope. And yeah, it does really feel good to be, again, a part of the community 10 weeks in and really involve myself in it through different things, whether that's outside of this placement, through social sports, or yeah, just getting out and about traveling around, not just in Charleville, and I'm working on a couple of cases, but yeah, just out to the stations and towns around the place. So it has been good to, yeah, really confront those expectations I hadn't asked myself and reflect on. Yeah, probably didn't need to be too nervous about that. Yeah, I think it's been really good so far to have that opportunity to reflect, and with the support of Lifeline here and the teams as well, it has been good to, yeah, be a part of something big, particularly this far out.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Lisa's.
Yes, I might just jump back to Lisa's question. A chat, yeah. So,
You've got it there, Harry. Would you want me to say it?
oh, we've got it, yeah.
Yeah. As students, how would you suggest we spread the word about rural and remote placement options? That's from Lisa.
I think, I know for me, and I probably could say that this might change when I finish placement, but I think so far, I think giving students insight into what life's like out here is a big thing. And how, I guess, when you go into these spaces, how good communities are in accepting people that come in. And I guess once people understand who you're there for and what you're doing, I think that really breaks down any barriers you might have expected going in. So I think it helps to, yeah, alleviate students' concerns, just giving them that insight, and probably more so just the positive experiences that have been had. I know for this placement, 10 weeks in, there's been some opportunities I never would have thought I would have got. And I think it's been really good that now I've had that experience, yeah. So I think that's probably the big thing.
Yeah. And you go, Chantelle.
To add to that, so I came from the health psychology program at UQ, and the way that I found out about rural placements was through, we had a presentation during our orientation week, where someone from SPRH came in and spoke about rural placements. And as I'll discuss later, I'm from a rural and remote community myself. And so as soon as I heard that, I was like, sign me up, guys. But I do think that message, there were a lot of us who were keen, and I ended up being one of the only ones who came out. And I think that's because that message happened right at the start when we were kind of overloaded with a lot of information. It would have been really great if we could have had another one of those information sessions, maybe midway through, so that information is fresh and you can be considering it after having completed some of the coursework and things like that. Would be my suggestion.
And no, that's okay. And as a organisation, sort of looking for placements, we again, communication. We reach out to the university as much as the university reaches in. So I'm always sort of sending out emails, keeping connected with the universities across the sector with the contacts that I've got. So I'm able to get a little bit of a list of all different contacts that I've got. Then they sort of reach out to their sources in unis. So it's that connection where just keep connecting. I do that on a regular. So yeah, Kelly.
I forgot to say too, I'm actually based in Mackay, so I'm here on Yui country. I wanted to ask Harry though, you said that all I heard, and forgive me if I missed it, that you heard about this through a conversation with another student.
Yeah.
So how did you go about then organising the placement? Was this something built into your course though, these rural placements,
No.
or was that something you had to find for yourself?
Yeah, it's one of those optional things, I think. When we do go through, and this is just through UQ, I'm not too sure if other universities do something similar, but when we do go through, I guess, the placement preparation, they kind of ask you individually, like in the survey that I did, pretty much if you were interested in a rural placement. And I think it was as soon as I ticked the box, not even a day later, they got in contact with me. So I think it's that, but at the same time, like, I think a lot of those, they encourage you to expose yourself to those rural placements. I think for a lot of students that have gone through social work at UQ, they've really, I know the staff and course coordinators have really encouraged students to partake in remote rural placements. So I think a lot of it's just engaging with the staff, the course, just kind of getting their, I guess, take on things, but also, yeah, having those yarns with other students that have completed a placement. I think that's probably a big thing of hearing their stories. Yeah.
Yeah, and also as an organisation, it's sort of not taking on too many that you can't give the best experience. I do cap it as an organisation. I'll only take one or one large placement, maybe a short one here and there, depending on the placements, but 2 at max, because you can't give your time as an organisation to a student. So it's giving them that placement, they're building that rapport of placement values, I suppose, out here. But also, I was just going to lead into something else, but yeah, what I was going to say there in regards to having placements. It'll come back to me shortly, and I'll bring that back into there. But it's that, yeah, just giving the students a placement where then, like it said, it's word of mouth. So I've heard that a couple of times now, that they've spoken with another student and they've gone, it's because I spoke to them, I'm coming out here again, because they said they had a great placement. So I think that's a big key too, through the students. But that connection with the university is also paramount. Yeah, over to you, Chantelle.
So I am originally from Corumba up in the Gulf of Carpentaria. So it's a town of I think they say the population's 500, but I've never seen that many people in that space at once. So I grew up out there, went to boarding school, did all of that kind of fun stuff. I knew pretty early on that I wanted to do psychology, but was kind of discouraged. So I tried a few different things, and then went, you know what, I actually think this is for me, and I've never looked back. I don't think I can imagine myself doing anything else. I don't know if anyone else can either, really. So that was what led me into psychology. I started studying in Brisbane, moved up to Gladstone, went through CQU, back to Brisbane for honours and masters. So that was kind of my journey before I came here. Lifeline was my final placement. So I was very lucky. The university has placement coordinators. So they had kind of helped me to organise this. And I had spoken to Alison prior to coming out. And I was coming out at the beginning of 2022. And I got COVID. So my arrival to Charleville was delayed by 2 weeks. But the level of support and communication that I had was really reassuring. I tend to be a relatively anxious person, so I was quite nervous about, I've had to delay this and there are all these issues. But it still ran smoothly. And Alison and the Lifeline team were very accommodating of that, which was great. So my motivation to come to the Outback for a placement was, I I don't think I was ever really built for city life. It's too big, too busy. I had lots of great experiences there. I did a placement at Headspace. I did a placement in one of the hospitals, but I was ready to kind of go back to my roots. And I also had a big passion for rural and remote healthcare. Growing up rural and remote with 4 neurodivergent siblings, I recognized the lack of access to mental health services in particular, but services in general. We didn't have a doctor where I lived or anything like that. So I wanted to come back and give back. And something amazing about a placement out here is you can see the difference that you're making. I sometimes see my clients at the RSL or at the IGA, and I've been really, really lucky that some of them have come up to me and spoken about where they're at now and how they're doing. And that's such a privilege that I don't think you get on a city placement. So yeah, I think that impact was also part of the motivation to come out here. I received a lot of support while I was on placement, both professionally and personally. I had a few health challenges when I first arrived in Charleville, and actually had to make quite a speedy return to Brisbane to access some medical services. And I remember walking around the Lifeline office and just letting people know that I was going to be away for a few days. And Alison offered to stay on the phone with me for my whole drive back to Brisbane, because I was driving back by myself, which is, yeah, a 9-hour drive. But I also had staff members, you know, checking in that I didn't need anything. I had a staff member who was going to be in Brisbane at the time. Said, look, if you do need anything, give me a call. I'll come visit you in the hospital. I'll do whatever you need me to do. And he's now the godfather of my daughter. So the support that I received within work kind of became the support that I was receiving in my personal life as well, if that makes sense. And that was kind of the point. So that was a month into my placement when I realized this is a really special place, and I really wanted to remain a part of that. And I have been so lucky that this community has opened up for me with open arms. So in my career post-placement, I finished my placement in August of 2022, I think. I had built some really good community networks, and so took on a job as youth support worker at the local high school. And it was there that I met my partner. So we now live out here with our daughter, who is a year old. So I've been on maternity leave for a little bit of my time too. So that's where I'm at post-placement. I graduated the end of 2022. So this is my 3rd year. So I said I was a baby psych when I was in the master's program. Now I'm a toddler psych. So the training wheels are starting to come off, but we're still getting there. Yeah, I didn't think that I would ever work in domestic family violence or sexual violence. As a woman, I think we all have stories, we all have triggers in this space, but coming and taking part in this placement made me realize that I have a real passion for working with, particularly that trauma presentation and being able to hold space and be a safe person. I have a lot of people say to me, oh, well, I wouldn't be able to do that job because I care too much, which I find really frustrating, because it's not that we don't care. Gosh, the people I work with are some of the most caring people I've ever met. It's that we recognize the privilege that it is to hear those stories and to hold that space, and to be able to be a safe person, even if it's just for that 1 hour a week. Yeah, and the moment that I realized I wanted to stay in the Outback long term, I've kind of already discussed that, I think. But since having my daughter, her name's Adeline, so since having Addie, I think that's really even cemented further I want to stay out here, because the community that we have around us, her family, you know, she's got so many aunts and uncles, but also, you know, we recognize that the work we do here, the connections we have here, we wouldn't be able to get anywhere else. I've also just been recently involved in community recovery. Is it okay if I talk about that? So because of the flooding that our local communities have been a part of, we've been involved in community recovery up at Quilpie and Adavale, and then down at Thargomindah. And Harry and I were lucky enough to get on one of the flights out to Thargomindah on Friday. So we flew in, flew out. And then I also went on Monday. And again, it was just a massive slap in the face of the level of privilege it is to sit in this job, to speak to these people, to hold this space. And if I get to do this every day for the rest of my working life, God, how lucky am I? So yeah, there's everything reiterates my desire to keep staying in the Outback. Yeah, that's me.
So yeah, so yeah, you see, they're both yeah, great students and employees. Yep. But what I would wanted to touch further on is like Chantelle just touched on the diversity of what the placement are like in remote areas. It changes from day to day. But sort of for us here, it's not just in the DV sector. We have 12 different programs, youth justice programs, mental health. So the actual students that come here actually get an opportunity to sit beside every employee and have a look at all the programs and how they work, so they can sort of see where maybe their skills might fit the best, or maybe where they need to have a little bit more of a challenge. So having that diversity has been a really big part of also the experience that they have out here in the Outback. And that's probably one of the parts where Harry got his knowledge from the placement before, is that placement actually did a dual placement here with a clinical in the hospital and also a community, and got to sort of see how that crossed over. So the diversity in the placements that they can get in a remote area is, yeah, there's just so many different options to do that. So
I think as a team too, we do a good job of asking the student what their interest areas are and trying to marry up what. So I know we've worked together on some cases because you mentioned that you were interested in adolescent mental health. And so where we've got consent and where possible, I'll take Harry along on those, because why not expose him to those things while we go together.
And then Harry's going to chat to us in the next slide there, just a little bit about more of the nitty-gritty topics around like housing and financial stability while you're out here. So over to you, Harry.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really too much to go into in this part, so I'll make it quick. But I guess, yeah, coming out here beforehand, in preparation, there were some worries around, I guess, how I'm going to cope accommodation financially wise as well. I guess, as I said before, a lot of my comforts are back in Brisbane, so having to pack all that up, stop working to come out here for 18 weeks, so a couple of months. Yeah, it can be pretty full on and challenging to, I guess, recover a lot of that and figure out how I'm going to do things, whether that's to get a gig on the sideline as this placement to keep myself afloat. But I think it was really good that literally, as I said before, as soon as I ticked the box to do a rural placement, Southern Queensland Rural Health got in contact with me and really gave me that opportunity to give me an idea of what supports are available to me, whether that's through a bursary to help with the finances every week, and or the accommodation that's provided out here. There's a couple of student share homes out here, which is a good opportunity to, like, yeah, have shelter while out here, but also engage with a lot of other students from varying professions. I know a lot of the students I've engaged with at the share home I'm at come from a medicine background, so it has been insightful to hear their stories coming out here and hear what they do and provide some insight from my own about things out here. So yeah, Southern Queensland Rural Health were really good in linking up with UQ to make sure the process was pretty easy and seamless and didn't inflict more stress on me. So yeah, they were really good in pretty much getting myself prepped and so far there hasn't been any hassles.
And that's another key to it, is taking a little bit of that burden from the student in making sure that you can secure accommodation, and also with other placements, like Harry said, a bursary, but we've also been able to link in with a couple of places here with a couple of other students and link them in for a part-time job if they needed it. So having that, so that they're not coming out and having that burden. So as an organisation, trying to support them in that, in the placement, and some of the links that we have in the community, we can let them know we've got somebody coming out there, a student, have you got any work? And having that already done just takes a little bit of that barrier away for the students to come out in Western Queensland. And also, yeah, I'll leave it to you, Harry, for just give us a highlight, Harry.
Yeah, I guess in terms of how I'm settling in, it's week 10 now at the moment for me, so right in the thick of things. But it's been really good, and I think just to highlight again what Chantelle said, I think the really profound moments on this placement have been those little moments with people, and being able to have the privilege to be in a space with them, for them to feel comfortable and talk about some of the challenges, but also some of the great achievements they've had. And also, yeah, with the community recovery effort, that's been really good to expose myself to a setting I definitely would not have thought I'd have out here, particularly out this far. I could imagine it can definitely be different from a community recovery setting, community recovery effort in an urban setting than in a rural setting. So it's been really good to challenge myself in a lot of those environments, but also, yeah, know how I'm traveling, have the opportunities to meet people, have yarns with people. Also, yeah, with the support of the teams as well, that's been really good to kind of relay any stresses and challenges I've had. So I have, yeah, felt really a part of Lifeline here on the student placement, and that's been really good. Really have, so particularly this far out. So.
Thanks, Harry. Thank you, Chantelle. So this slide's just summing up everything that we've all just spoken about, and some of the connections. It's just a little slide that I do actually send to the students, so it just puts little key moments there, and they can ask me about if they want any more information. So yeah, the accommodation for SQNH education support, with, again, as I said, we're really lucky with the Southern Queensland Rural Health. They've a really good network to have behind us, events and social events, linking them up with the websites out here. So yeah, that's a big part of that. And this is just another slide that I send to the students, because coming from a Brisbane area, just some little tidbits up until they get to Roma, because when they get to Roma, there's not much more past that till you get to Charleville, a couple of little towns. And generally, if you're coming from Brisbane, they're coming generally in the later afternoons where there's less things opened. So just giving them a little bit of a fun road trip to follow, and to know that they're on the right path and they haven't taken a wayward turn, which is going to take them 8 hours out of their road to get back to us. So that's just a slide that I share with them. So giving the students as much information, especially in remote areas, to take away some of those anxieties, or maybe giving them some anxiety. But yeah, just giving them the knowledge. So yeah. Next one there. Any questions? And then probably just one thing before you ask any questions is like Lisa's question there. How would you suggest we spread the word to rural and remote placement opportunities? Talk to Workup and see if you can share the lovely stories that they've got access to the lovely stories that Harry and Chantelle have just provided. Sharing the students' stories is probably the biggest key that I've had success out here.